I remember in the middle of yoga class, my yoga teacher ends up saying to me, Bubba, after class, can you help me with some stretching I need to do? And at that moment, I realized that the things I was stretching was not what usually you're supposed to do in yoga. But I mean, I did it anyway because, yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy but embarrassing story. This story all starts off back in my high school years, and this was actually back when I was in grade 10. Now, in grade 10, I played rugby. If you guys don't know what rugby is, basically think of football, but 10 times more rough without the armor. Yeah, kind of insane. But I remember playing rugby back when I was younger. I wanted to play an active sport and not just be known as a theater kid, since in grade 9, all I took was theater. And that was to help with my stutter, but not the point. Anyways, I remember one day after school, I ended up going to rugby practice, and during rugby practice, we were doing like practice games with me and my other teammates. And let's just say one giant dude on my team that would usually take out most of the competition ended up running straight for me since I was left wing, and he ended up tackling me down so bad to the point where I hurt my leg really badly. To the point where I even yelled, "Ow, my leg!" It got to the point where the coach stopped the game, and he ended up walking over to me, realizing that my leg was severely bruised and actually somewhat swelling. So my parents ended up picking me up from school that day, and they ended up helping me out. And actually, they realized how bad the pain was, and they ended up taking me to the doctor. When I went to the doctors, I was super annoyed because like waiting for the doctor is like so annoying, especially for how long it takes. But I remember the doctor ends up looking at my leg after like 3 hours of waiting in the waiting room, and he ends up saying to me, "Yep, that looks like a really bad one right there. Have you ever taken yoga?" What? Yoga? No. Well, I would advise you take yoga. Yoga might actually help out with your pain and, you know, stretch those muscles to make sure you don't get injured so easily again. So you just want me to take yoga? Yes, it'll help with the pain and make things a lot better later on. At that moment when he said to take yoga classes, I remember right away my mom was already surfing through the internet for yoga classes that a teenager could take. And let's just say what ends up happening next was actually really weird, because I remember the next day after school, I ended up basically going to my mom's car because she picked me up and she drove me over to this yoga studio that was actually somewhat near my place. She ends up taking me there saying, "Bubba, you have to do yoga. You have to stretch and make sure your muscles don't get hurt." Yeah, but like, Mom, yoga's like for girls. Yes, but also for people that are injured, and you are injured. Okay, Mom, whatever you say, is what I told her. And I ended up entering inside this yoga studio with my mother. When I got in there, I remember I ended up seeing a lot of like actually pretty fine women, but a lot of them were like married mothers, so I can't really do much there until I saw my yoga teacher. Now, my yoga teacher was actually, funny enough, a girl that went to a different high school, and she was apparently like a really good yoga teacher because she took like the courses early throughout her high school years. So I remember when I entered inside and saw her, she ends up looking at me super confused and walks up to me. She walks up to me and says, "You're someone I haven't seen here before. What are you doing here?" "Oh, I'm here for yoga. My leg got injured recently, and like the doctor said to like, you know, stretch it out, and I guess you're here to help me out with that." "Oh, well, yeah, 100%. Here, go on one of the mats and just follow along with the class." At that moment, my mom ended up leaving the building, and at that moment, I stood on the yoga mat super embarrassed, because the whole time a bunch of moms were looking at me confused on why in the world there was another dude in the class, because the only other dude that was in there was some gay dude. So me hoping that everyone didn't think I was just a random gay dude as well, the class started, and they started doing really like a lot of different positions. Like we started stretching our legs, we started stretching our torsos. Basically, we did basic yoga stuff. If you guys don't know what yoga is, then my advice, take it if you need it, not if you want to, because I don't really see any upsides to yoga even after taking the class. But I remember the whole time when we were doing these like stretching and positions and stuff, the yoga teacher that was the high school student ends up walking up to me saying, "Bubba, you're supposed to like do this." And she ends up grabbing my thighs and stretching them out even more. It felt really uncomfortable that she was actually getting that close to my eggplant, but 100% she noticed that after like a minute of her trying to stretch me out, which sounds really weird. YouTube, please don't demonetize this video. But after like her of like basically trying to stretch me out, she noticed that I basically got bricked. Yeah, kind of awkward, but at the same time, you gotta understand when you're filled with the room with a bunch of moms that have massive cherries and a yoga teacher that's actually pretty fine and hot as well from a different school, it's kind of bound to happen, don't you think? So from there, I ended up looking at her. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do a different position. "Oh, yeah, okay, you can do that." And she ends up getting up and walking away. At that moment, I thought I totally just embarrassed myself and ruined every chance I got to getting with any woman in the yoga class, which is not really the point of me going there, but still better than what I was there originally for. But weeks went on of me going into the yoga class. It was actually funny enough, like 2 weeks I was there, and I went there basically every second day. And every time I would go, the yoga teacher that was there would always look at me really weirdly ever since that day passed of her basically seeing me get bricked. And one thing led to another. Well, let's just say after 2 weeks, things got really awkward, because I remember after when class ended one time in yoga class, she ends up walking over to me saying, "Hey, Bubba, what do you usually do after class?" I don't know. I usually go home and just play video games. since I'm injured, I can't really play rugby anymore. Oh, you played rugby. What school do you play for? Oh, I just play for my school that's near my place. And right as I told her my school's name, she ends up actually looking at me kind of freaked out. And she's like, oh, my ex actually is on your rugby team, I think. Oh, okay. Cool, I guess. Yeah, anyways, what are you doing after the next class? I have no plans. Why? Okay, well, let me know. I might have an idea for you to help with your leg. Okay. At that moment, she ends up winking at me and walking away. And I was really confused, but at the same time, maybe this girl had like some interest in me, or maybe she was interested. I don't really know. Maybe she was gonna ask me out, but at the same time, if she was, why didn't she just ask me when I was already there? It made me really confused, but I decided to basically ignore things. And I remember when I got home that day, I ended up playing Call of Duty. And the whole time when I was basically at home, I kept thinking about what this girl wanted to do with me until after tomorrow finally came around. Because I remember I ended up going to my yoga class after my mom dropped me off. And when I entered inside, I ended up seeing my yoga teacher wearing one of the most tightest outfits I've ever seen her wear. Now, during yoga, it's normal to wear tight outfits, so obviously no one else was weirded out. But what she was wearing definitely got me more excited than average. And I remember when class started, the whole time I couldn't stop staring at her, to the point where she actually ends up coming up to me saying, hey, so like, are you still free after class? Yeah. Okay, cool. After class, meet me in my office. Okay, cool. What are we doing? Well, I'm gonna like help you with your leg, obviously, and like, you know, do some personal stretching. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, if it helps with my leg, sure. Oh, it'll help with all three of your legs. All three? At that moment, I thought she was like maybe like, you know, talking about some spiritual leg that she like, you know, knew about in yoga terms. I don't really know, but I remember when class finally ended, all the moms ended up leaving the building, and I ended up walking into her office. And when I walked in there, me and her started stretching together, and we started doing like, you know, downward dog and other positions that are apparently really good in yoga. Until randomly, I remember when I was basically watching her stretch one position that she was showing me, she ended up telling me to go behind her. And well, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, we ended up doing the devil's tango because she wanted to help me out with my thrusting, I guess. I don't really know, to be honest, and I can't say anything more than that because I don't want to get in severe trouble online. But yeah, we ended up doing the devil's tango. And things got really, really weird because I remember right after class ended, she ended up handing me a form that said that I was allowed to play rugby again. I ended up looking at her saying, wait, you know, if I get this, I can't enter the class anymore, right? Well, yeah, obviously, but I mean, after that, I'm sure your leg's totally okay. And well, I don't know how she did it, but she was right because my leg felt totally cured afterwards. Maybe she had some magic potion inside of her. You know what? That's really weird. Anyways, guys, that's basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.